All right, we're gonna let's start at the theme song for the show today. You're watching All in the Family on CBS.
Boy, the way Glenn Miller played
Songs that made the hit parade.
guys like us, we had it made.
Those were the days. And you knew where you were then.
Feel free to sing along, guys.
Girls and men were men.
Hard to.
I can't sing along because I'll sound worse than her.
Again.
All right, let's do
Didn't
good.
need no welfare states.
Everybody pulled his weight.
I've never heard the song without seeing
The visual of her.
Yeah.
It's completely different.
It's just bad, isn't it?
And you hear some subtle things like when he says the welfare state thing, it's like
He's like,
all the contempt in his voice and stuff.
Yeah, and I didn't really notice the song was written to be slightly bigoted, like the theme song. They wrote it to be that way.
Yeah.
So is that what we want to start with today, or do we want to start with the interview, or how do we want to do this?
Oh, we're already started here. Let's talk about racism.
Okay, great. So, show of hands, who's for it, who's against it? Right off the bat, I'm going to say I'm against it.
Oh, okay.
Matt,
Oh, I thought
we all are.
oh.
Okay, well, that's
Thought we were just
going to
raising
be a
our
boring
hands.
argument then. I thought it was going to go back and forth. I was sure Taylor was going to be pro, and then we were going to go back and forth.
I'm
So-
pro-racism.
Yeah.
For TV entertainment purposes,
The
sure.
girl with the biracial mother is pro-racism.
Right.
Yes.
The biracial gay lesbian mothers from Mars.
Now, where'd you watch the All in the Family? Did you watch it on YouTube?
I
Hulu.
watched it on Hulu.
Oh,
Which became,
Jesus Christ.
for the first time in 5 years, significant in my life again. Well, other than Quick
I
Draw.
love
I take that
Hulu.
back.
Oh, there you go.
Really?
Yeah, we watch Hulu all the time so we have cable, but we went 3 years without having cable, so we forget that it exists.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like it's Wednesday night. Oh, Arrow started an hour ago. I guess we'll just watch it on Hulu tomorrow.
Yeah.
Like we even have a DVR. We just don't use it.
Don't use it, really? That's interesting. See,
Yeah.
I've never thought, except for Quick Draw, I never think to ever go on Hulu.
Yeah, because I don't want to sit
It-
through advertisements when I can just pirate
Watch
it.
it
and
for
watch
free.
But it's
Yeah,
only like
exactly.
30 seconds.
No,
sometimes
sometimes
it's
it's
like
like
2
90
minutes.
seconds.
It's usually not. It's usually like 30 seconds, and I use
But you have
that
an account.
as I use
How
that
much
as
is
my
Hulu
Twitter
paying
time,
you
so.
to promote them right now? I don't
$9.99.
know.
Well, okay, so I am notorious for always being on my phone and tweeting or Instagram or something because I'm a millennial and I have a terrible social media addiction. And so when I watch shows, like whoever I'm watching with, they always yell at me like, quit it, like pay attention. So with Hulu, I get my little Twitter time in between because there's commercials.
Oh, I see. So
And
you're
then I
making
don't get yelled
productive
at.
use of it. I see. So I was
Yeah.
actually going to do an Instagram right now, everybody. So it's,
And Hulu is not paying me, I'm paying them. So
Yeah, so you get 30-second commercials because you pay them. I don't pay them, so I get 90-second commercials about things I don't care about at all.
yeah, that's completely true.
you know what's
for me.
funny though is because they use like your internet search history to like give you your advertisements. Our cat was being an asshole for like a 3-month period, so my husband was doing all this research on like how to better his life. Even though I work at a vet clinic and I know this stuff, like he doesn't believe me.
But the internet, he believes.
But
Yeah, right.
yeah, to Dr. Google. But so he's like, we need to do this and this. So for like 3 weeks, all we had were cat food and cat litter commercials.
Oh.
It was bad.
So let me ask you. One of the first things is Taylor, is like, I'm gonna go watch the All in the Family, and then I get a pop up here. Let me read it directly because I thought this was pretty good. Let me see if I can find it here on my
I took
social
notes.
media. Did you? Okay.
Yeah, so I've got
And
even
I want to
better
talk about how
stuff.
popular, in a minute, we'll talk about how popular the show was because it really was a groundbreaking show. I didn't know it had so many spinoffs. It had like 6 spinoffs from the show. I was really surprised by that.
You know there were multiple pilots as well. by the way.
Yes, and they ended up replacing. So I did not know that was Rob Reiner playing the
Oh,
son
yeah.
until the
Meathead.
very end, and I'm like,
Oh my
that
God.
guy looks just
That's
like
Meathead.
him.
I saw Rob Reiner and I was like, huh, that's weird. I didn't see him in the episode.
Yeah, and once I saw it, I kept looking. I'm like, it took me a minute because obviously he's filled out and Orson Welles himself, but
Can I tell you that he does not look like a college student? Like,
Yeah,
when
not
they're
in
like,
any way,
"Happy-
shape, or form."
Happy 22nd anniversary. I'm like, your daughter is older than 22. Like, what happened?
all right. So let's see. Here is where was the? Oh, come on! This is taking too long here.
The pretty version I
Do
watched
you
on
need me to
YouTube.
read the text message?
Yeah, maybe that would be faster because this has gone too
you
long.
failed.
Here. Okay.
Failed.
Let the
basically-
millennial do it for
Okay,
you.
there we go. Much faster.
Come on, old man. You don't know how to pirate things on the internet. You can't read your text
Whatever.
messages.
I showed you how to I mean,
Did I text it
I
to
don't do
you, or
anything.
did I?
You Facebooked it to me,
Okay.
person who seems to know more than I do. But anyway, basically her point was, oh my God, I just heard the word coon on television.
Oh God.
And
Yeah, here we go. OMG, this dude is so racist. WTF, they just said coons.
yeah. And then she said,
But she said it as at least you didn't say coon.
yeah,
That's
at
what
least,
it
yeah,
was
at
saying
least
in
he
the
didn't say
episode, so-
coons like
I
he
also
used
did it
to.
in all caps and then said coons wasn't in it, so that's why I yelled into the mic.
Did it
Yeah.
autocorrect coons? I'm just curious.
No.
No? Okay.
So one of the things I noticed is they said they've always called him a lovable bigot. Was kind of the way they wanted to intentionally write the character, that he's still a good husband, he does provide for his family, but he's almost unintentionally a bigot. Like, he doesn't do it out of hatred. It's more like he was raised a certain way and he just doesn't want the world to change, as opposed to literally hating certain people. Like, there's the black guy that comes and repairs his television. You know, he may be a little derogatory towards Lionel. Yeah, he may be a little derogatory, but he's not like, get out of my house, or I hate you, or you're the N-word, or, you know, don't talk to my family.
Because he can benefit from him.
Yeah, well, there's also that
Yeah.
too. But I did think it was funny that there was they said a couple of times, you know, they were accusing him of being Jewish, and he's obviously
Oh my
Christian.
gosh.
But
I
he
was
goes,
laughing so hard.
but there was a couple of latent racism bits in there too, because even Lionel was like, "Oh, well, you know, the Jews are a very angry people," and I'm like, "That's just as that's just
I think that
as
was the
big
point.
in it." Yeah,
Yeah.
maybe. But I'm going to pull up a couple little facts here that I saw earlier. Reader's Digest and TV Guide ranked it the 4th greatest television show ever
Of all time?
of all time
Of all TV shows.
of all TV shows.
So the three
Isn't that
before that are Desmond Pfeiffer. I'm sure that's one of the
That's
shows.
one of the best shows
Alf,
ever.
I would guess.
Why he has this thing with
And Small
Alf.
Wonder.
Now we need to watch Small Wonder sometime. But here, I'm going to pull this one up. I was
what
really
what are
shocked.
the other ones?
I was going to see if I can find those.
Because
Let's
now
see.
I have to know.
Is it because it
what-
changed? Did it change some sort of format? Like how
Yes,
I Love
it-
Lucy changed the three camera program thing?
Right? Yeah,
Yeah.
it basically did. It. I was trying to find it here. Let's see.
Can I also just say I thought it was funny, like I Love Lucy, when Lucy was pregnant, they couldn't say the word pregnant on TV.
Yes.
Yet they have Archie Bunker saying coon.
Well,
Or
and
no,
this is.
Tito
I was going to
Tito.
read from
The evolution
Wikipedia.
of TV. You know?
The show broke ground in its depiction of issues previously considered unsuitable for U.S. television network comedies, such as racism, homosexuality, women's liberation, rape, miscarriage, abortion, breast cancer, the Vietnam War, menopause, and impotence. So even the word coon, I mean, they started talking about later miscarriages and abortions on the show, which was just a huge no-no. Though the depiction of these controversial issues, the series became arguably one of television's most influential comedy programs ever, as it injected the sitcom format with more realistic and topical conflicts. So whereas before it was a very kind of idealistic world, like I Love Lucy or something like that, it was kind of these
Happy Days.
Yeah, Happy Days. These comedic setups. And they're almost like farces, and you would play through it. These were like, no, the humor comes from, we're going to be talking about miscarriage, and there is humor in that. And I could definitely see, and they ranked number 1 from 1971 to 1976. So for 6 years, it was the number 1 television program.
So what you said reminds me of how we view Louis now, like the Louis C.K. show.
Yeah,
Oh,
I
yeah,
can see that.
absolutely.
a
Yeah, so
little.
it's kind
Yeah.
of the same thing. It's a whole different way of doing a sitcom, a dramedy, or whatever you want to call it.
Right.
Well, and I
The,
could see like them talking about it being influential because it's much easier to take a taboo subject, and if you make kind of a farce of it, people will accept it more than if you have a drama, a drama about racism versus a comedy about
Right,
racism.
because people are like, I don't want to sit and look, if I got to deal with something difficult already, I'd rather be able to laugh my way through it while thinking about it. Then, well, that's why when Carol and I went to go have our last abortion, as we do every quarter, we take a joke
keep it
book with
clean in
us
there.
and just read through the jokes as
Yeah.
she's
The dead
getting
baby
vacuumed
joke
out.
book, right?
The baby joke book, yeah,
Yeah.
the dead baby joke book is what we read. So it just keeps a little levity in our lives.
That
I
makes
think.
sense.
So we also have a doctor who dresses like a clown when he performs the abortion. So
Nice. Just use balloon animal instead of a coat hanger.
As someone who's taken his friend to go get an abortion and seen somebody there that he knew and was like,
Oh.
hey, how you doing? This is not my baby.
it says
Not your
here-
baby anymore.
So this is TV Guide's 50 Greatest TV Shows of All Time, ranked All in the Family is number 4 of all television shows ever
MASH
made.
would have been before it. Seinfeld.
I bet MASH was. Yeah, let's see
Yeah,
what
yeah,
it's got
MASH
to be.
is-
Yeah, I
because
wanna know what-
MASH
I
has
Love
gotta
Lucy's
up
got to
there.
be above it too.
Let's see.
Or Roseanne.
Wow, okay, I'll tell you what. We're going to start with number 10. We're going to go backwards. We're going to make
Okay.
this a game. Everybody gets one guess, and then I'm going to tell you. Number 10,
Friends.
Full House.
I will
Cheers.
say that. Okay, I'll tell you what. Here, let's do it this way. Guess, and when you name one, I'll tell you what number it came out to be.
Okay, so I said Friends.
You said Friends, and not on the list.
Okay.
Full House.
Full House, thankfully, is not on the list.
So Cheers.
Cheers, not on the list. And I
Happy
think that you
Days.
do have to think of groundbreaking, like the format
So
type
Roseanne's
change.
on the list.
No, that is
Wow,
not on
shit.
the list.
Grace Under Fire.
No, y'all are doing really
Simpsons?
one or two. Yes, Simpsons number 8 on the list.
Yeah.
Groundbreaking in the field of animation. It was. It portrayed them as real life people for about the first 2 years, and then became the comic absurdity that led to other formats doing it. So that Simpsons is number 8.
Okay.
All in the Family,
Sopranos?
number 4. The Sopranos, number 5, revolutionizing television into a long form format. Whereas it would only be soap operas that just kind of kept the story going, where they didn't have a real story arc. The Sopranos broke ground for every other HBO show and long-running show after
So
that.
I have The Sopranos to blame for that then.
I
These
love
shows
it.
that just never end that should have like 5 years ago.
Well, maybe for that. But The Sopranos was the
fucking
whole
Supernatural.
season-long story arc. That was where it's even commonplace on network now. But that was HBO was taking a big chance, and they thought that was going to fail hard. It ended up becoming one of the best television shows of all time.
So The Real World's on there.
The Real World, no, and you would think.
Survivor?
I guess they have to put also good in the qualifier. Well, I mean, I hate to say it, but I mean, yeah, I think they got to say groundbreaking, but something
So good,
people watch.
yeah.
Wait, are these like actual shows or are there reality shows on this list?
There is. I could see if there was a reality show, but no, these are narratives. Yeah, these are story narratives.
Okay. So we have what, 2 out of
You've
the
got
10?
you got 3
We have
out of the
3
10. Okay.
Okay.
Did anyone say I Love Lucy yet?
I Love Lucy number 2.
Yeah.
Okay.
So revolutionizing the camera format, and also they did break ground on a lot of comedic stuff that you weren't really allowed to do before, and also having a female lead who wasn't Betty White was kind of a big deal.
Okay, so Saturday Night Live?
Number 10, Saturday Night Live.
I'm good at this.
So even though the format was done before, it was the first nationally recognized and internationally recognized sketch and variety show.
Okay. And then we just mentioned Betty White. So Golden Girls?
No, although Golden Girls was stupid when I was a kid and hilarious now that I'm an adult.
Yes.
So I have to.
Because I think
watch
it's
it
because
again.
you get all the sex jokes now.
Yeah, I didn't realize how
Wrong end,
filthy that show was
Dirty
until I
old
got
ladies.
older. Yeah.
Mad
Dirty
TV.
old- No,
We
again, that
already
would
covered that with SNL.
Yeah. I tell you what, I will.
Go ahead and give him to
This
us.
one was the first show ever based off a comedian and performer's work turned into a narrative. He played the same name.
Dick Van Dyke?
Oh, I was gonna
No,
say Small
good.
Wonder.
It's right before that.
The Mary Tyler. It would be Mary Tyler Moore.
The
then.
Andy Griffith Show.
Okay.
Oh.
This is the first.
Wow.
It was the first nationally recognized show based on a performer's work that wasn't like an interview or talk show where he played a character.
Oh, Carol
that was-
Burnett's gonna be.
Is
on
the
there.
Johnny Carson show on there?
No, surprisingly, but another talk show is.
Is it Jay Leno?
No.
Is it David Letterman?
It's David Letterman.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, at number 7, which I'm a little surprised. I thought Johnny Carson would have been on there, but no,
Brett
The Late
Sullivan.
Show with David Letterman introduced more skits and outside comedy bits into it. But I'm really surprised Johnny Carson isn't on there. That is a little weird.
I call shenanigans on this list.
Yeah, all right. Well, I tell you what. Here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna go from the bottom up. Number 10, Saturday Night Live. Number 9, The Andy Griffith Show. Number 8, The Simpsons. Number 7, Late Show with David Letterman. Number 6, and I never would have guessed this, but it makes sense now that I see it. 60 Minutes.
Yeah.
That was the first. Well, the reason why is, and we actually had to study this in film school, is before 60 Minutes. You had, to obtain an FCC license, you had to give a certain amount of what's called return to the public or a public service, because the FCC issues a license on a public. The public owns the airwaves. So to be able to broadcast on it for a certain amount of time, you had to give back to the public. That was considered news segments, traffic, reporting. Nobody ever made money off those because it was something you had to do. So they would take 30 minutes every couple of hours and doing news, and then usually a big one at top and bottom of the day. And that was considered what they had to do to maintain their license. 60 Minutes came along and started doing more like investigative journalism, more kind of narrative stories.
And people started
pieces.
tuning in.
People started tuning in. They started selling advertising dollars. That was when news went from pure, unadulterated, just straight reporting the facts because there's no bias, to we now have people that we have to make happy, and we have to keep those people's and advertisers
So
happy.
again, now we have 60 Minutes to blame for sensationalized media.
Yeah, it really was. 60 Minutes was the show that changed what the news did. and eventually changed all over the world until I guess you get the new Turks or something online where they have no advertisements. So now that I see it, that does.
I would have guessed
make
Inside
sense.
Edition. That would
A Current Affair with Maureen O'Boyle. Horrible name. Let's see. Number 5, The Sopranos. Number 4, All in the Family. Number 3. Anyone want to take a guess at this one?
Just tell us we're back.
Bing
to this
Zoom,
game.
Right to the Moon, The Honeymooners.
Oh, okay.
Oh, God.
Which I don't quite understand why that one's on there. I never thought that was great of a show, but I guess it did.
Well,
Was
it did.
groundbreaking.
Well, and it spun off the Flintstones and the Jetsons. So.
That's okay. Well, I guess that's true. That may have been. Maybe it was the first format of like husband and wife at home, wacky guy next door. Maybe they started the wacky neighbor trope.
Maybe they
Unless
started
Shakespeare did it.
wife beating too.
Wife beating, yeah, it was very unpopular until
Domestic
Jackie
violence.
Gleason
Hot damn!
popularized that. So Taylor's pro-racism and pro-domestic violence. today,
I
everybody.
am. And pro-abortion.
And
Let's
pro-abortion,
talk about
that's
that.
right,
Not
yeah.
pro-choice, pro-abortion.
Pro-abortion. I actively want as many abortions as I can see happen. Let's see. Number 2, I Love Lucy. Number 1. I'm surprised, but yet not surprised considering the ratings.
WKRP in Cincinnati.
Oh,
No,
God, I wish.
Anybody?
What decade is it from?
It would be I would say mainly the 90s, from 89 to 1998. One of the longest running shows that maintained either a third position or above, normally number 1 its entire run.
Cosby Show?
No, that would be mainly 80s.
It's too
Yeah,
short
that's
to be ER.
Yeah. I will say it's a comedy. It may not have changed. Well, it did kind of change what people expected from it.
What genre is it?
It would be, I'd say, New York comedy based.
Oh, it's Seinfeld.
Seinfeld.
Yeah,
Oh,
we said
we
that
said
like
that.
20 minutes ago.
Somebody said Seinfeld?
Yes,
Yeah,
it's like
yeah,
the
that's
second
what
thing
it
that
is.
was said.
How did I not hear Seinfeld?
Good job, host.
That's
Way
why
to
I'm
keep up with
sitting
this.
there
Hill.
like,
Or maybe
It's
you were
not
going to blow your load too
Seinfeld. It's
early,
not
and I had to
good.
hold you
Oh,
off
is that
because
what it
I
is?
know what I'm doing as the guy behind the board.
Nice.
So, yeah, number 1 Seinfeld.
or you're just
You got it.
deaf.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. It's Seinfeld. Everybody got it wrong. So, yeah, that's number 1. So, what do you think it is about Seinfeld that made it number 1 out of
It's a
all
show.
of them?
Okay, so I hate Seinfeld. I've tried.
Really?
I've tried to give it a
Wow.
chance. I've listened to some of his stand-up, and I think the stand-up is funnier.
See, that I'm the exact opposite.
And see, like, I don't know. I just can't do it.
Really.
I find Kramer really obnoxious. I find George really obnoxious. Like,
but see,
and
to me,
like,
kind
you
of like with
can show
Archie
me-
Bunker, I think you're supposed to.
I
Like,
don't
they're
know.
all
You can-
horrible people.
You can show me clips of it, and I think it's really funny. Like, oh, that's a funny clip. Like the George's answering machine one. I've seen that bit a
Right.
couple of times. But if you make me sit through a whole episode, I'm like, just shoot me.
See, they even the finale, they admit that like they get what's coming to them. There was one rule in Seinfeld that Larry David laid down for all the writing. There's no hugging, and nobody ever learns a lesson. And I always thought that was kind of interesting about it, that they're supposed to keep churning out being
I
bad
thought there
people.
were hugs.
They I don't know.
Well, you never see.
Somebody find me a clip of someone on Seinfeld hugging,
Hugging,
somebody
yeah.
else.
Let's see.
Not you. Like, just someone watching. Just,
I also never enjoyed Seinfeld, but I can tell you that the reason it's on that list is because any internet top 10 list that has to do with TV will obviously have Seinfeld on
Well,
there.
it also
because-
was, I believe, out of its 10-year run, it was number 1 for 7 years, number 3 1, and number 2 for 2 years.
If you want to watch a show where no one hugs and no one learns a lesson and it's actually funny, watch Arrested Development.
Oh, I thought
Now,
you were
see,
going to
I
say Perfect
love-
Strangers.
Oh, yeah. I know Arrested Development is, again,
That's
one of
my
mine.
all-time
I'm a
favorite
little
TV
surprised.
show.
Mine's still DuckTales. I can't go back on that. I've committed to that, and I will for the rest of my life. I can't go back on DuckTales. But Arrested Development is, hands down, one of my absolute favorite shows. Matt, what's your
Larry
favorite show?
Sanders.
The Larry Sanders Show? That's
For sure.
classic.
For sure.
When he goes in the back and cries after the show's been canceled, and I can't think of the character. Rip Torn.
Rip Torn, yeah.
And they cancel the show, and he's being tough for everyone else, and you see him walk all the way back to the wardrobe, go in the back and cry. That broke my heart.
For sure.
That totally killed me.
That's one I still haven't watched.
Oh,
it's
that
fantastic.
is.
I've
great.
heard it's great, and I've seen it. Like, I think it's on Netflix. I just haven't watched it.
It is, the only one I like. One of the only shows I like better than that is it's the Larry Sanders. It's the Gary Shandling
It's the
show.
Gary Shandling, yeah.
The actual one where he played Gary Shandling, and to me that was honestly. Now the reason it's on the list is it wasn't very popular, but that was a show where it would be on the scene, like showing him in his house, and he'd be like, well, hold on a minute, I'm going to run over to the neighbors, and instead of leaving the house and then cutting, and it shows him he would walk. The camera would pull back, and he'd walk off
Actually
the
follow
set,
him?
walk next door to the set, walk on the set, and it would zoom back in.
That's funny.
And whenever they would take visits to his doctor's office, like he would walk off the set, get into a little golf cart, drive down to the next set, and get out. And it was just everything about it was just so
that's
self-aware.
Yeah.
Whenever they would need to change time, he'd be like, well, I dropped my car off at the mechanics. It'll be ready in about 6 hours. And they'll just stand there and nothing happens. And he's like, we should just jump forward 6 hours. So we'll take us watching, he'll turn it, and then all the lights dim in the
that's
studio,
funny.
and it'll be 6 hours later.
Yeah.
But anytime someone touches a clock, it affects the time in the show.
Nice.
So when he forgets to do something one time, he takes the clock and spins it back 2 hours, walks out and comes back in the door so he's not late for a party. It was
funny.
just a brilliant show, and it's never been released digitally. I own every copy. I mean, I own every episode, only because I actually had to contact a guy in Germany that he worked at a television station, and they had all of them on VHS, and he digitized all the VHS copies for me, took off the German dub because that's a separate layer, and took all that off and sent it to me. And it was very cool. And when you watch it, it has the lines across it, and it wobbles.
Yeah.
And it is a horrible VHS. But that's the only way I could get the show.
That sounds
but
terrible.
it's wonderful, and I will recommend that show to anybody. So that would really
Except we can't find it anywhere. So
I will have to give
Come
it
to
to
Del's
you.
house.
I will have to give it to you. Well, actually, I
God.
saw that it was up on. He must have taken it and put it up on Pirate Bay because about a year after I had it, I was searching to see if there was a better copy of it. I was like, "Oh, cool, the Gary Shandling show," and I started downloading it. I pulled the pilot. I'm like, "This is the exact one I already have." So he must have put it up. Who is bugging me today? Let's see. Let's.
is it someone that found a clip of someone hugging on Seinfeld?
I hope it is. Let's see here. Oh, okay, never mind. Got a bachelor party coming up.
My favorite show was always it affected my life the most was 21 Jump Street. Like,
See, I've never seen an episode of that, but I know a lot of people that love
I saw the
that show.
movie.
yeah.
That
Well, I saw
that the
I don't
show
think I
is
really got
based off of.
I would like as a kid, like I would come home early, and sun wouldn't go down till 8, and I could be out, but I'd come home early just to watch that show.
And so what was 21? It was about kids in high school that were cops?
Johnny Depp was an undercover police officer in a high school,
And
I
Dom
can't remember the
DeLuise's
guy's
son.
guy.
Dom DeLuise's son.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Wait, isn't
It was the last time
one
Richard
of his other
Grieco was
kids
relevant.
is on one of those Disney Channel shows?
I can't remember.
I wonder if it's the same dude.
Who?
One of Dom DeLuise's sons was on Wizards of Waverly Place with Selena Gomez. He played her dad.
That's an uninteresting fact. So, which Taylor? What's yours?
I said it.
Oh, Arrested Development
You
is your
are
all-time
Jeff.
favorite.
I didn't give him
Yes.
any drugs before the show today, so I don't know what's wrong with him.
All right, so Matt's is Small Wonder. We all know that. Or Alf. It's got to be Alf, right?
Are you really asking me this?
No,
again?
I know. But it's always Alf that he goes
No,
to. or
it's
Small
Arrested
Wonder.
Development and then probably Doctor Who.
Doctor Who's.
Just because there's an episode everybody can watch. You can watch it with the family.
And see, I'm even
Never
a fan of
seen
the
any of
old.
them.
I actually have all the old ones from
I
like.
haven't watched the old ones
Oh,
yet.
they're really good because some of them are way more dramatic, and then some of them are way more silly. Like Douglas Adams, who wrote Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, wrote a couple of episodes, and they're just zany, off the wall, very much Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. But then the first ones with William Hartnell were really dramatic and great for at the time. I thought so. That's a good show.
No,
as
I
well.
haven't introduced it to anybody yet that did not like it. So
trying to think, other than DuckTales, which is just to me by default. Like I have to go with that.
every time you say it, I want to go woohoo.
What's wrong with that? You go ahead. Gosh,
Step by step?
Something else that I could watch over and over again.
Little Mermaid?
No, is that a TV show?
Didn't they make that into a TV
They
show?
made Aladdin
Everything was
into
a
TV
cartoon.
They did,
show.
right?
I don't
They
think they did a Little
I'm just gonna
Mermaid
stick with
one.
DuckTales because I've watched
My
all the
Little Pony?
episodes dozens and dozens of times. I'm just gonna say that's probably the best show ever. Or Columbo. It might actually be Columbo. We were talking about earlier. That's I can watch. They've got what 60 1.5-hour movies, and every time I finish one, I'm like, I need to watch another one right now, and they just feel like they fly by.
Of the new
Matlock.
ones, mine's True Detective. Like,
That's probably one of my
haven't finished
favorite
that.
shows right now.
Yeah.
I need to finish it.
I want to see how long it'll hold up.
Yeah.
You know, because I want to see if other shows start kind of copying it and stuff like that. But yeah, in the moment watching it was one of the most brilliant. And that with that rating scene,
Oh,
Matt
yeah,
was like,
for
"Oh, wait
sure.
till see episode 3 or 4 when they did that one long take through when they raid and it's all one camera
Yeah,
movement
yeah.
was just beautiful."
Yeah.
So that reminded me of Boogie Nights. That was
Oh,
so
yeah.
cool.
I think the raid was the last episode I saw. I may have gotten a couple past it.
Oh man,
I started watching it when I was working at my old clinic, and I'd get home at like 9:30 at night and be exhausted. So we'd start an episode, I'd fall asleep.
oh no, you
so.
need to watch it when they finally.
Which says nothing about the show. It just
Right.
says more about me.
When they finally
so.
get to the Yellow King, that was one of the best crazy people I've ever seen without
Okay, stop
overplaying
talking.
it. Yeah, I won't
I can
say
finish
that,
it.
but that was a great portrayal. Okay, so All in the Family. Let's get above it. Anything else to say about that? I mean, it definitely was groundbreaking. Number 4 of the shows of all time.
I
Definitely
have my
was
stream of
racist.
consciousness
Let's.
notes.
I'd like to hear some of this.
So this is All in the Family as viewed, but for the first time ever by a millennial. So are you guys ready? It says, so I wrote this one as a joke. I go, the intro is totally ripping off Family Guy.
Oh.
And then I wrote, who is Gene Miller, when they actually said Glenn Miller, which makes it even funnier to me. And I go, I don't know what the hit parade is either. I think I know what a LaSalle is. It's a car. And then I was watching the episode. I was like, was that a boner joke? Like when
Which one?
When they're sitting there and he's like, oh, they won't be home for a couple hours. So like they're hugging and she's like, now? And he's like, they won't be home for a couple of hours. And I'm sitting there like,
That was a boner joke.
I was like, is that a boner joke? And then they like go to like make out. I'm like, it was a boner joke.
I like the one also where he's like, pull down that skirt every time.
Yeah.
Every time you sit down, the mystery's over, and that's her dad saying that to her.
Yeah, but if you see that shot, that skirt does. She flops up. You could definitely see that.
The next note I had was the show is full of sex jokes. Conservative dads really don't change. And then I go, oh my God, my dad is Archie Bunker.
Wow. I was surprised how many times I laughed out loud at the pilot. I've seen the show once or twice since I got older. I did not expect to actually guffaw a few times.
Mine, I know half of my laughter was just at how racist he was. And like, I'm expecting this like wholesome family show from the 70s. And I'm like, oh my God, this is not what I thought.
It's not the Partridge Family.
A warning on that one. Yeah.
Yeah, no. What else? Oh, when Lionel's talking about, you guys with what's his name? The son-in-law is talking about, you guys with your 24-inch TVs.
Yeah, like the big, I love, and what's funny is, again, to go back to Columbo, because
his name is Mike. I found my notes.
Mike. Yeah.
Mike.
One thing is, we're watching Columbo, Carol and I keep laughing because it's filmed in the late 60s, early 70s, for the first about half of them. And it's always like the groundbreaking technology is what catches the bad guys. Like, this is a voice-activated tape recorder, which records when you have... And it's like 3 foot tall by 8 foot long. He's like, this is the smallest thing on the market.
It's like when you watch the first Alien movie and the computers, and they're flying the awesome spaceship, and it's like the 80s, DOS computers.
But it's always great because, Columbo's kind of funny. It's also a drama. It's a How Catch 'Em instead of a whodunit. But one of the things is they did make a point of always showing the new technology in every episode. Like the one with William Shatner, they for the first time introduced a VCR that could record live television and go back, and it blew people's mind. I remember when I watched the show with my dad when I was younger, he's like, "No, you don't understand. We thought that was a joke." When we watched that episode, and then we found out that was a real thing you could go out and buy, and it blew people's minds. And so it really was. And again, with Archie Bunker, the same thing. They were talking about things like they were amazing, and I'm just like, that sounds awful. Yeah. That sounds like I'm living in Iraq, or something.
My next note was, for a college student, Mike looks really fucking old. And then here went into my racist thing. I said, did he just say spick and spade? What the fuck?
The Black Beauty, I thought was another good one.
Yes, oh my God. And then I have, will you stifle? With like 6 exclamation points.
Yeah, apparently that's a catchphrase he does a lot, is he tells her to stifle and calls her a dingbat, which I didn't remember from watching. Yeah. But I didn't expect, because I was reading the Wikipedia as the show started, trying to get some information. And I was like, oh, I'm sure I'll hear that once in the episode. And then it was like 30 full seconds of the word stifle.
And then the next one is,
that's a good drinking
when
game.
Is he actually just going to hit her? And then and then
that'd have been perfect for the pilot.
Yeah. The next one is, what's wrong with ketchup on eggs? Because I like to put ketchup on eggs.
Oh, that is really?
Either that or salsa. If I don't have salsa, I'll use ketchup. So, because they either have to be smothered in cheese, which is bad for you,
love cheese,
or you dip them in like salsa or hot sauce or ketchup or something tomato based.
I can do the hot sauce. I love hot sauce on eggs. That's my favorite.
And then my final note
Queuing up the break.
My final note was, Lionel is awesome.
Oh, you like that hair? I liked how we went into the black character sometimes.
What was the
yes, sir, Mrs. Bunker.
Yeah, where'd you get that suit, Harlem?
No, I like...
Yeah, my other one has yellow checks and purple checks.
Yeah, from when I'm hanging out with my people. But I like the Archie Bunker's line.
Every time he liked to look at them and not roll his eyes.
Well, I liked Archie Bunker's line that was subtly racist. He's like, I like that suit you're wearing. It's very fancy, very calm.
Very subtle.
Very subtle.
He either said subtle or subdued.
Yeah, implying that all black people just were these lavish, garish colors. I thought that was great. So let's let's vote. Would you recommend people watch the pilot for All in the Family?
If I had only ever seen the pilot and knew nothing else about the show, which basically I did, I would not continue to watch it.
But now that you know that it was groundbreaking, it was intentional that they did that to get people kind of watching. What do you think?
I probably still wouldn't watch it.
Really?
He's a little too over-the-top racist for me.
Now, what if I told you that as the show goes on, he becomes more like that's his character arc, is he learns to deal with people better. His wife becomes a little more, in control of herself. The actually the Jeffersons are the next door neighbors, and they become a big part of, one of his kind of best friends and drinking buddies ends up becoming the black guy. Jefferson's next door.
I would say that I grew up with that because I had my two parents and my next door neighbors were Muslim. So
Oh, interesting.
that was my life.
Yeah, we had my grandmother had Muslims across the street one time. I remember my grandfather said something to the effect of, he's like, they're good people, they're all right. And my grandmother looks at him
For
and goes,
Muslims?
Well, he didn't say that. And my grandmother goes, looks at him and is like, for Muslims or for people? He's like, good God, for people. He was just like, the idea that he would classify them as he was like, oh my God, no. So I always remembered that from my grandparents they were real anti, my grandmother was one of the first ladies to own a business in all of Dallas. So she was very pro. She actually got arrested one time for getting up to give a black lady who was pregnant a seat on a bus, and she got yelled at. An officer, they ended up having a fight. An officer arrested her. So I was very happy to find out about my grandmother.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
That was her. Matt.
But all the things that we've talked about and said about it, I would absolutely recommend it because it's about perspective. To be able to know that a show like that was the #1 show on TV for 5 or 6 years, and that's what has been on TV before what we watch now. I think that's why you should watch it. Perspective.
Chris, I know you didn't get a chance to watch the pilot.
Well, it
but
spun
you
off the Jeffersons, and that's one of my favorite shows too. So
Boom.
I'm okay with that.
Okay, yeah, it helped out Black Beauty, so I'm down with it. So. Okay, and I've got to say, same thing. As a person who watched it when I was younger, and I thought it was a drama, and I was expecting, as I got older, I caught it on television one time. I'm like, oh, yeah, I remember this. I watched it with my grandmother. My grandmother's very sick now. I'll kind of watch it out of tribute to her. And I end up laughing, going like, whoa, this is not at all what I expected. I was kind of excited to go back and watch the pilot to see where it all started. And I got to admit, I laughed out loud plenty of times. So I may go home today and continue this racist tirade. I'm a little excited about that. So that's 3 yeses and 1 incorrect no. So
Wrong answer.
Exactly. So we're going to take a break. We're going to come back and we're going to interview Chris Llewellyn from the movie trade. I got the name right. I got the Deep Ellum Trading Company.
It says it right there.
Holy crap. If I get one thing right, I'm shooting myself in the foot. All right. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to listen to Ben Folds' You Don't Know Me featuring Regina Spektor. I just happen to really like this song. We're going to come back with Chris Llewellyn. We're going to talk about what he does, which I believe is abortions over there. Anyway, it doesn't matter. We'll come back and talk about it. Clown abortions. And then we're going to play What's in the Box. So we're very excited.
America's favorite new game show.
America's favorite new game show. That's right. You're watching All in the Family. At DeepEllumOnAir.com, part of the CVS
You're
lineup.
watching fuckery.
And
You're watching fuckery. You guys.
You're watching Funtime Good Show, part of the Disney Afternoon.